I want to call back to order this evening's meeting of the Township Committee on December the 16th. If everybody can please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to first ask for a motion for the minutes for the November 10th regular and closed and the regular and closed special meeting, December 10th, 2015.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? At this time, I'm going to call upon some folks up here on the dais to do some presentations that we have here this evening, all of which are, again, truly tremendous. So at this point, I want to ask Committeeman Mr. Mancuso, Deputy Mayor Sisler, to step forward to help in the swearing in of Patrolman Burke and Patrolman Bruno.
All right, Chief, you're going to have a few words first?
Good evening. My name is John McGinnis. I'm the Chief of Police of Morris Township Police Department. And tonight, Officer Burke and Officer Donato are going to receive their oath of office. They're going to place your hands in the Bible in a few minutes, raise your hand, and swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States and State of New Jersey. During their entire working life, they're going to be on video. And with that, they have a tremendous power in their hands. A power to take away someone's freedom and the power to use deadly force. And we're going to demand from them the decision to make in a split second. We're going to go back to that video. And for hours, and for days, and for weeks, dissect it to make sure you made the right decision in a split second. That's law enforcement today. That's what we do. And with these two fine officers, who I'm going to introduce first, Officer John Whitney Burke. He's a graduate of the Somerset County Police Academy in June of 2011. In 2012, he joined the Morris County Park Police. We were very fortunate because during that time he received a lot of training. DWI, HGN, and also tactical, you're right, casualty care, as well as methods of instruction. John has a graduate degree from Quinnipiac University in finance. Prior to becoming a law enforcement officer, he was an electrician for many years. We'll use that too. John brings to us an expertise in firearms, and very shortly we tend to use your expertise as an armorer. Joining us tonight from John's family is his mother Debbie, his sister Suzanne and Kristen Tobin, his brother-in-law Jim Tobin, and his wife Jill. So first I'll let you take your
All right,
officer's
who's going to be sworn in first? Do you have someone to hold the Bible for you?
My wife.
That would be great. Please join us. Over on this side. All right, Bible's there. Left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in this state and the United States pursuant to the authority of the people, so help you God? Do you further swear that you will justly, faithfully, and impartially perform all the duties of office of police officer of the Township of Morris to the best of your ability, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
The second officer tonight to take his oath of office is Officer Jonathan Donato, badge number 147. He graduated in December of 2015 from the Morris County Police Academy, 85th class. After completing 22 weeks of physical training and academic training. His training continues today, because for the next 14 weeks he'll be assigned to his field training officer before we actually cut him loose and work on his own in the field. Jonathan has a degree from William Patterson University, Bachelor of Arts degree in Criminal Justice and Sociology. But before attending the Morris County Police Academy, he worked as a correctional officer with the Passaic County Sheriff's Officer. So last year he spent 16 weeks in the Corrections Academy in Seagirt. So he's had 2 academies in 2 years, not an easy thing to do. He's also worked for Congressman Rodney Frelinghuysen as an aide in his office, and that's actually where I met Jonathan. Jonathan is our 4th bilingual officer in the police department. And to show you the significance of that, how it works, in his first shift, Jonathan had to be used as a translator. Jonathan Donato. While his mom comes up, I forgot to introduce his family. His mother, Betty's coming up. His twin sisters, Cindy and Melissa, are here, as well as fiancee, Lucia.
Left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in this state and the United States pursuant to the authority of the people, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
You further solemnly swear that you will faithfully, justly, and impartially perform all of the duties of the office of police officer of the Township of Morris to the best of your ability, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Congratulations.
If you notice, we let Bruce, who's a little younger, pin the badge on because we have a habit of drawing blood if we don't do it properly. It's a wonderful time for the 2 Johns and Morris Township to bring a new group of people into our family. 80 years ago, almost not to the date, but at least 80 years ago, my dad was sworn in as a policeman in New York City, and it's a legacy that I will never forget. And I think that our police and fire and EMTs, I just couldn't be more proud of you all, and God bless you. Have a wonderful career.
At this time, I'm going to ask Deputy Mayor Sisler, Committeeman Nunn, also to ask a very special friend of Morris Township to step forward, Sheriff Edward Rochford. These gentlemen have an award for the sheriff who is celebrating 50 years in law enforcement between the county and Morris Township. Welcome, Ed.
So Sheriff, we just had badges 146 and 147.
22.
22.
I had the opportunity to meet Ed Rochford when I was 16 years old. My grandfather and my grandmother wanted to get me involved in politics because they did not see a career in baseball coming for me. So they introduced me to Ed, who was running for sheriff for the first time, and they helped him on his campaign. Interestingly enough, how long ago was that? Just a couple of years ago. I used to go around nailing in lawn signs for him with these things that looked like you were killing Dracula. They were like these long poles. Ed actually gave my father his first ticket when my dad was 18 years old, so I'm not going to vote on this resolution tonight because of that. Ed has been such a valuable public servant for all of Morris County, but particularly here in the Township of Morris, and Committeeman Nunn is going to read the accolades, but I'm honored to have him as a friend. I was honored to have him swear me in when I first became a committeeman, and thank you for all of your years of service. We truly appreciate it here in Morris Township. Thank you.
So I have a little bit of a different introduction. Committeeman Nunn's grandmother used to babysit Sheriff Rochford. That's a true story. Sheriff, then not in law enforcement, on November 29th of 1965 was sworn in by,
Cy Young, who was the township clerk at the time,
and who was the chief that hired you?
Ben Rideout.
My uncle,
Happens to
so.
be your uncle.
So we have my grandmother and my uncle. So I didn't work on any campaigns early on, but I'm really honored tonight to be able to recognize Ed, who is celebrating his 50th year in law enforcement. Think about that, how many careers people have in a lifetime. He's been doing the same thing for 50 years. So from November 29th of 1965 to December 31st of 1992, Sheriff Rochford was a police officer here. He served in the capacity of patrolman, detective, detective sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and deputy chief of police. And in January of '93, he took the oath of office as the sheriff. Correct?
That's right.
He is a lifetime member of the Morris Township Fire Department. And now, in most presentations you see like this, the person doing what I'm doing says, well, I'm not going to read the whereas clauses. But for someone who's been doing this for 50 years, he was a son of Morris Township, and my grandmother, who's no longer alive, would be very upset with me if I didn't take the time to do this for Ed. Whereas, during his years of service, he faithfully performed the duties and obligations thrust upon him, and above and beyond these duties, has given his utmost to the citizens of the Township of Morris and the County of Morris, to the end that all citizens have benefited from his experience, faithfulness, professionalism, and dedication. And whereas Sheriff Rochford is a graduate of City University of New York, John Jay College of Criminal Justice, FBI National Academy, and the National Sheriff's Institute of Longmont, Colorado. Whereas Sheriff Rochford, during his career, has received countless acknowledgments and awards recognizing him for his dedication as a consummate professional and a servant to the citizens throughout his career. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, in the County of Morris, and State of New Jersey, being the governing body of said township, as follows: that the Township Committee, on behalf of the citizens of the Township of Morris, does hereby congratulate Sheriff Ed Rochford for his distinguished service and extend him best wishes for continued success in all his future endeavors, and that this recognition is hereby presented to the Sheriff, as I know.
Thank you, Matt. Congratulations to Officers Burke and Donato, 22 to 147. You guys done a lot of hiring. But this is a family, and when I say that, I mean it, because when I came here, the Township Committee, they were always working together, and that's how it's been in Morris Township for 50 years. I mean, I've worked with Timmy Quinn, I worked with John McGinnis, Bruce, definitely I've worked for his grandfather when I was in college, part-time. And Matt's grandmother, of course, she babysat for me many times, and I don't want to tell you what went on at some of those events, but Matt, we did have fun, I can tell you that. But I'm back home. This is what I consider home, and for you guys getting on the police department, this agency has always been a put-together agency, and everybody always looked out for each other. And I had the opportunity to go throughout the state of New Jersey a few years ago when I was president of the State Sheriff's Association, and I saw other law enforcement agencies. And I can tell you, Morris County has the best law enforcement anywhere in this state, and Morris Township has always been recognized as one of the leaders. And you guys are coming into a great agency, and I congratulate you for it. And I wonder if we can take some of our township committeemen and make them freeholders. I think you guys do a great job of it. But you know, that's what some people forget. Everybody works together for the common good, and you guys have always done that. And some places, they don't do that. They're out for themselves. I have to compliment all of you for the fine job that you do in Morris Township. And thank you so much for this recognition for tonight.
I'm going to call upon Deputy Mayor Sisler, Committeewoman Johnson, for some life-saving presentations. Oh, I'm sorry, Scott Lumberg.
Chief, do you want to come up, please? On behalf of the residents of Morris Township, I want to thank Scott Lovenberg for his spectacular career with the Morris Township Fire Department. Give myself a little credit. I couldn't have made a better choice in 2011 when we hired you, and I'm sad to see you go. As a member of the Morris Township Fire Committee for the past 5 years, I had the privilege of working with Chief Lovenberg on a regular basis. And during his tenure, Morris Township experienced not just the normal day-to-day events such as fire alarms, house fires, car fires, cats in trees, but additionally, we had an earthquake, 2 hurricanes, an unseasonable snowstorm in October, and a plane crash. Chief Lovenberg saw it all, and he handled each and every challenge with professionalism and class. He's one of the finest leaders that I know. Scott had the difficult challenge of balancing a combined career-volunteer department, and this is not an easy task. But he proposed innovative and creative ordinances to try and recruit more volunteers. He was a strong advocate to replace our fire trucks that had long gone over their life expectancy. He created our fire department intern program and worked with the township committee to make sure that all 5 companies were equipped to save lives and protect property, all at the same time while never taking his eye off the goal, keeping it at or under budget. The residents of Morris Township are happy for the chief and his family as they move into the next chapter of their lives. There's a bit of sadness to see this 30-year veteran and community leader leave our home. His commitment to us will never be forgotten, and we appreciate all he and Sharon and the entire Lovenberg family have sacrificed over the years for the good of our township. Dan and Ashley, you should be very proud of your dad. His commitment, loyalty, and work ethic are all something to be valued, but also something to be followed after. On a personal note, I'm losing my friend, whom I relied on for advice and guidance for the past 6 years. I often call Morris Township the jewel of Morris County. Scott Lovenberg and the fire department that he shaped and led for the past few years made that jewel shine just a little bit brighter. His leadership made Morris Township a better place, and for that he will be missed. Thank you very much for your service, Jim.
Was it official with Sharon?
Yeah, let's Sharon.
Come on, Sharon.
The floor is yours.
I would like to thank the Mayor and Committee for having the confidence in me to lead the Morris Township Fire Department for the last 5 years. It was certainly my honor to be the chief of the fire department. I love the Morris Township Fire Department, I love what we do, and I know that the residents of Morris Township love what we do. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jesse Carr. I'm acting chief of the Morris Township Fire Department. Tonight, I also would like to honor Chief Scott Lovenberg on his dedication to the Morris Township Fire Department. When I was hired in 1999, Scott was the person that took me under his wings, told me what to do, what not to do. And then in 2011, when I was promoted to captain, Scott was the chief of the fire department, taught me how to be an officer. So tonight we'd like to honor Scott with the plaque. It says, Chief Scott Lovenberg, thank you for your dedication as chief of the Morris Township Fire Department 2010 to 2015.
I'm going to call on,
Forward the.
yes,
Okay.
Deputy Mayor Sisler and Chairwoman Johnson?
Thank you. Okay, I would like to call forward at this time firefighter Michael Zucker, firefighter Brenda McCluskey, and members of the Morris Minutemen, Lieutenant Paul Cullen, here tonight, EMT John Zavalario, Tim Meyer, and Taylor Madden, please come forward. All right, I'm going to read the life-saving recognition text here, so you all have the facts. On November 8, 2015, at approximately 7:10 p.m., the police, fire, and Morris Minutemen EMS were summoned to a private residence for an unresponsive 34-year-old female. Upon arrival, both the fire department and Morris Minutemen personnel found the unresponsive patient lying on the bathroom floor. The Morris Minutemen personnel attempted to find a pulse. No pulse was found, and CPR compressions were initiated. The patient was extremely blue in the face. This is all very frightening to read, I must say. And fire department personnel established an airway by tilting the patient's head back, inserting an oral airway and suctioning. Shortly thereafter, the patient took a few breaths. She was moved to an ambulance where medics were waiting and transported to Morris Medical Center. The victim is expected to make a full recovery. It was in fact the effort of both the Morris Minutemen and firefighters working together to resuscitate the victim that saved her life. Special recognition and thanks is given this evening to Morris Township firefighters Michael Zucker and Brenda McCluskey, and to Morris Minutemen EMS crew of Lieutenant Paul Cullen, EMT John Zavalario, Tim Meyer, and Taylor Madden. And I would just like to add onto this that because of all of you, there is a family in this community that did not have to plan a funeral for their 34-year-old daughter. And there is a family that is not going to spend Christmas grieving over the death of this young woman because of you. And there is a family that has had, if they didn't believe in Christmas miracles before, they probably do now, because you are all heroes. You saved the life of a young woman, and God bless all of you, and congratulations.
First, I'd like to thank Mayor Caffrey and the Township Committee for allowing the fire department to award this life-saving citation. Firefighters don't do the job because of awards. They do it because they love it. But the members are always training, and Firefighter McCluskey and Firefighter Zucker are always training to be the best they can be at their job. So tonight, I'm proud of them. And I'd like to offer them the life-saving citation bar for their efforts that night.
My name is Dave Schultz, I'm President, Morris Minutemen EMS. I echo what Jesse said, but I'd like to add two things. One, the crew that responded that Sunday night, like all members of Morris Minutemen EMS, are completely volunteer. So we average between a 12-hour shift, a 24-hour shift every 5 weeks, training and meetings. We average 20 volunteer hours a week at the building. We sleep at the building, so that's pretty incredible. And I'd like to also add that 3 out of the 4 crew saved a life, came back to the building, went to bed, and got up for high school the next day. I got to tell you, when I was in high school, which is a long time ago, I never would have had the sand, the backbone, to get up and do what these guys do. So I'm actually going to do this in reverse order and present the bars. Taylor? Yeah. And if you notice, there's, you probably can't see it from here, but there's a little hole in these things. And what the holes do is they hold a number. Once you get past your first save, the number of the save goes in there. So to Tim Meyer, number 2. And to Lieutenant Paul Cullen III, who holds the Minutemen record, number 4.
there's some resolutions introduced later on in the program tonight. And it is for the appointment of Michael B. Nunn as Deputy Chief of the Morris Township Fire Department effective January 1st. And for the appointment of Jesse Carr as Fire Chief of the Morris Township Fire Department effective January 1st. And I'm told by our township attorney that we have to use the term appointment, but in fact, this is a promotion and a very nice one for both of you, very well deserved. And I had the opportunity to spend some time with both Michael and Jesse this week, and I can tell you they are the best of the best. Consummate professionals with visions for the future and continuing the excellent work of Chief Lovenberg. We are in wonderful hands, as you can see, by all the people in this room. We're so very proud of you and wish you very hearty congratulations.
Before we take a short break, I want to open it up for comments from anybody else from the committee while we still have departing Chief Scott Lovenberg here, and Jesse, and the folks from the Minutemen, and the firefighters, life-saving, and patrolmen who were just appointed tonight. We really do have a great emergency service system here in Morris Township. So I want to open it up, because I have a few words to say, but I'll let you go.
I want to echo some of the same sentiments. Those of you sitting down, you can turn around and look around, you'll see EMS, police, fire. These people spend holidays away from their families, their fiancés, their boyfriends, girlfriends. Those are the people that were running into the buildings on 9/11 while everyone else was running out. So, you know, when we see the media and we see the coverage, and you know, the old saying, a few bad apples spoils the bunch. For every one bad police officer or someone who commits an act of official misconduct, you have a room full of people like this who are doing good things every day. So please remember that and keep it all in perspective, and don't let your views on law enforcement, EMS, fire be jaded by the nonstop coverage in the media so that they can get ratings on things that are really anomalies in the profession.
I've been a resident for 45 years, and never had I had any doubts whatsoever that we had the greatest volunteer group in the history of this part of New Jersey. I think it's the best group of people in the county, and obviously in the state. Couldn't be prouder of you, prouder of the things that you brought to Morris Township, and we just wish you all our blessings and all the best to you in your lives.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot to be said about the personal sacrifice of all the people in this room. And you know, I don't think you ever are really off the job psychologically, even when you're off duty. You carry this with you all the time. Your families carry it with you, and we are just so very grateful for all you do.
I went to a funeral from a friend recently who's in the Air Force. He's a great guy. Somebody that just gave and gave and gave to the community like you can't believe. And the gospel that was read at his funeral was the one about Jesus being asked by his disciples, how do we know we're helping you to get into heaven and go to a better place? And his response was, well, anytime you found someone out there that was hungry, you fed them, you were feeding me. Anytime you found someone that was thirsty, you gave them drink, and that was me. And you did it without even knowing who those people were. That was my friend Jimmy. That's what he did. He gave and gave and gave to the community without even caring who it was. And if everyone in this room would turn around and look at these men and women that serve our community, they go into calls, they go into burning buildings, they go and take on people, the bad guys, to protect us without even knowing necessarily who they're protecting and who they're saving and who they're helping. They do it unselfishly. They do it because that's what they're called to do. And I can't speak for all the, I can speak for all the residents, the 24,000 residents here in Morris Township. We truly appreciate all that you do. You really make this place a great place to live. Thank you.
Thanks. And just a couple of things. And first of all, just congratulations to the 2 patrolmen who were appointed this evening. The life-saving awards to you folks is incredible, and I don't think it could have been put any better than the way Louise Johnson put it at the microphone. That there is a family this year at Christmas who are celebrating Christmas and not grieving. You really can't say it any more than that. To our departing fire chief, Scott Lovenberg, I have a couple of stories, because if anybody knows me, Matt Dunn will always say I have a lot of stuff that goes on in my head. And most of it's useless, but I managed to retain a couple of great stories, and Scott in the back of the room will know this room because we talked about it the other night. I served some time on the Fairchild Fire Department. When I first started, probably one of the first working fires I was in, and I see Captain Duffy over there. I remember he was there. It was a fire in the middle of winter. It was probably 6 degrees out, and water was freezing everywhere. I was on the second floor along with a bunch of other folks, and along with, it wasn't Chief then, but Scott Lovenberg. And the horns blew outside because the situation had gotten dangerous enough where we had to evacuate the building. And I'm standing at the top of the stairs. Meanwhile, it was like a water flow of ice all the way down the stairs. So Scott came up behind me, realized we got to get out of here. He gave me a little nudge, and I hit the floor, and down I went down those stairs on my you-know-what. We're on TV, so I won't say it. But Scott, you have I've been in a number of working fires and situations with you. I've worked with you as the chief on this committee. I have truly enjoyed working with you, both in the fire department and here on the committee, working with you as chief. You're a terrific leader. Really sorry. I'm very sorry to see you depart us. I want to thank you for all of your years of service, not only as chief, but as an officer, as a volunteer in the fire department, his many, many years of service here at Morris Township. It does not go unnoticed, and I want to thank you. Also, when I first started, there was a guy who took me under his wing, so to speak, and I would go to the firehouse every weekend. And I was a little older at that time. I'm a lot older now, but I was a little older at that time when I started. And he took me under his wing, showed me everything, took me out to driver training with me, and I really got to appreciate him and get to know this guy very well. That guy was Jesse Carr's father. Unfortunately, we lost him at too early of an age, but Jess, let me tell you, your dad's looking down right now. I'm very proud. So congratulations. I'm going to take a short break, allow folks to leave, unless you want to stay for the rest of the meeting. We got a lot of great stuff going on here tonight. No. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and anybody who would like to stay, you're certainly welcome. If not, thank you, and congratulations to all.
Too busy chatting up the audience here.
I want to call back to order this evening's meeting. Wow, cleared the room, huh? I don't think it was anything I said. Before we move on, I just want to, he's been over to a number of our meetings before. I want to call upon Rob Walton for Jersey Central Power and Light, who has an update for us. So before we move on, I'll figure you get home if you like.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. Appreciate it. Good evening, good again. Rob Walton, Jersey Central Power and Light, 52 Chatham Road in Southern New Jersey. Just wanted to give you a brief update on our progress with the Montville Ravine transmission project. We held our first public hearing about a week and a half ago at Montville High School, Montville Township, Montville Board of Education, as well as the Homeowners Association, or the condominium complexes adjacent to the proposed transmission line came out as opponents of the project. We'll get a public hearing. A number of other residents from Montville also spoke out against the project. They were countered by the president of the Morris County Chamber of Commerce, the president of the Alliance for Action, which is a infrastructure advocacy group in New Jersey, as well as the president of our union and several other of our large industrial customers. That testimony will then be part of the public record that goes to the BPU. Their formal hearing sometime in January or February. That hearing, Montville will also be able to more formally testify against the project. J.C. Pino will be able to formally testify for the project. Part of that testimony will include 25 resolutions and letters from municipalities in Morris and Sussex County who will benefit from the project, including yours. So again, thank you very much for the support. We expect the project to be approved, but of course we do have to have the hearing. Other than that, thank you all for being a welcoming community in my first full year as your area manager. And I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a healthy and happy 2016. And as always, I'll take any questions.
Rob, on behalf of the residents of Morris Township, having done this for several years, you have no idea what a great difference there has been in the communications that you people are having with the community and with the township. You know, get your reports on Nixle and get your reports from you guys every day. And thank you, considering, you know, where we were 5 years ago.
Thank you, glad to do it. Thank you for the compliment. It's been a team effort, I assure you. What else?
I have nothing else.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Thanks, Rob.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Rob. At this time, Mr. Mills, ordinance for public hearing and final consideration, 28-15.
Yes, Mayor, it is entitled amending Chapter 162, Section 5, false alarms. The ordinance speaks for itself, but it reschedules some alarm fees and costs and adds I think a different category of alarms. It just basically tuned up the existing ordinance, and as you indicated, it is for public hearing.
Okay. At this time, I would like to open up for public commentary. Any comments on ordinance 28-15? If anybody from the public would like to step forward and have any comment or query on that ordinance. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion. Do I ask for a motion on 28-15?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mayor Tuesday?
Yes.
Mr. Sisson?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes. I, Daniel W. Caffrey, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed, approve the same, and direct that the clerk publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper, and to record the ordinance in its proper place. Report of the bid committee, Mr. Quinn.
Thank you, Mayor. We have one bid to report on, sir, that deals with the reconstruction of Blackwell Avenue, called the Blackwell Avenue Road Improvement Project. The bid's specifications went out in November of this year. Bids were accepted on December 10th. Prior to that, 13 vendors picked up specifications, 10 vendors submitted bids. The lowest responsible bidder for this project was Midwest Construction in the amount of $313,769.42. It is the recommendation that the Township Committee accept this bid and authorize the work to Midwest Construction. And there is an accompanying resolution number 241 for that. And that would be the bid report.
Thank you, sir. All right, so resolutions, we've got a block that we're going to ask for motions on. We'll pull a couple out, and then we're going to vote on a couple separately. So I'm going to ask for a motion on resolutions 225-15 through 228-15, and then 230-15 through 245-15. Mr. Mills, 244 and 245 are the tax appeal resolutions. I don't know if you want to make a note of that.
That's correct, Mayor. Settling two different tax appeals, one by Colgate-Palmolive and the other by JCP&L.
Okay, thank you. So I'm asking for a motion again, 225-15 through 228-15, and then 230-15 through 245-15.
All for the resolutions as you enumerated, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor Tuesday?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Sisson?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes. At this time, Mr. Mills, 246-15 and 247-15 are the resolutions in the appointment of our new chief and deputy chief. And because of a family conflict, Committeeman Nunn will recuse himself from that, so I don't know if you want to add to that.
No, other than.
No, not you, Mr. Miller, but you can. Nothing else we need to know.
No, I mean, when the vote comes around, and as you indicated, he will abstain.
Okay.
I'll offer 246.15 and 247.15, if those are the right numbers, Mr. Mayor.
They are. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Because of the queue, let's do a roll call.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Abstain.
Ms. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mrs. Sis?
Yes. At this time, we're gonna open up Resolution 229-15. I don't know, Mr. Mills, if you want to just preface that?
Let me set the scene, yes. I'm just going to read the title. It's authorizing a person-to-person, place-to-place transfer of plenary retail consumption license from Linder LLC, which is currently a pocket license to Rock Bottom Entertainment LLC, trade name Mink's Lounge, 4 John Street, license number is noted. The attorney for the licensee, Mr. Robert Williams, is in the audience and requested an opportunity to be heard prior to a vote being taken. I would ask you recognize him.
Sir, if you would introduce yourself.
Yes,
Any
good
comments?
evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Robert C. Williams appearing on behalf of the current licensee, the transferor or seller of the license to Rock Bottom Entertainment LLC. I'm appearing before you because the contract that we executed a year and a half ago to sell this license provides that the purchaser, Rock Bottom, would purchase the license provided that there was no restriction on entertainment. And I have reviewed your proposed resolution 2915, and there is a restriction by way of special condition restricting entertainment in the form of go-go bar at the location should the resolution be approved. Now, the township or town of Morris, Township of Morris, zoning board approved go-go use at this location. I'm not sure you're aware of that, but Monday night, the zoning board approved that entertainment is permitted at the location of 4 John Street, and specifically that go-go entertainment is permitted here. So as far as any zoning considerations, there are none. Your township has already determined this is an appropriate use because it's a non-conforming use. And you sit here tonight, although you're the township council, you're actually here empowered by Title 33, not Title 40. You're sitting here as an ABC board. So you have to be guided by Title 33 and NJAC 13, which are the rules and regulations of the Division of Alcoholic Beverage Control. Now, in order to impose a condition, you have to comply with 33.132, which is special conditions. And what does that say? Well, if you look at your handbook, which is provided to all municipalities, it defines exactly what you have to do. Number 1, the condition has to be approved by the director of the ABC. I don't think you've done that. There's no record of it that I can find that you've submitted these conditions to the ABC for approval. Number 2, and I have copies of this if you'd like to have it, but I'll read it to you. The conditions may not be imposed that are not directly related to the sale of alcoholic beverages, such as zoning matters. What you're attempting to do here is to say that you can't have this type of entertainment because you're trying to back in through the zoning ordinance. You can't. So there are a number of things that you can't do. You have to do something that promotes the Title 33. It has, in the statute, it states that it must be necessary and proper to accomplish the objectives of Title 33. There's nothing in that restriction that does it. The sale of alcoholic beverages in New Jersey is one of the most highly regulated industries. The form of entertainment that is attempted to be restricted is governed by the rules and regulations. It's quite burdensome. There are a number of restrictions. There's voluminous case law. So I just can't find any legitimate reason why that would be imposed on this licensee. He has operated the purchaser. He has operated this location before. During the entire time that he operated and had Go-Go Entertainment, he never had an ABC violation. Why would it be necessary and proper for you to have to impose that condition? The condition that you're adopting is specifically defined in the ABC handbook as a permitted activity on the licensed premises. The ABC handbook specifically says that Go-Go Entertainment is permitted on an ABC premise. Your resolution would restrict that. I can see no legitimate purpose in doing that. Your resolution states that there have been no written objections to this transfer. Nobody in this town has objected to the transferee taking the license. It has not been requested by your police department. There was a glowing review of the applicants. You can find nothing wrong in their background why they shouldn't be able to operate this facility. What would be the reason for imposing it? What guidelines would you have had prior to voting tonight to show under the statute that it's necessary and proper? There's no recommendation from your building, zoning, police, fire, health, recreation. There is no civic group in this township that has requested it. There's no church group. Why is that condition there? You have to tell a transferee why the condition is necessary and proper. We're here tonight to ask you to delete that provision. If it's part of the transfer, it's only going to lead to extensive litigation. We will file an immediate appeal with the director of ABC. I can assure you he will stay that condition. That condition has not been approved. You will then have to go to Trenton and justify why you did it. And ask yourself tonight, what were you telling? What did he do to deserve that restriction? I can find nothing. The guy had a great record there. He's owned this property since the 1990s. This is an owner-occupied activity. I don't know what your concerns are. I'm here to address them. Counsel for the purchasers here, we'd love to know why that is necessary and proper under the state statute. The rest of your conditions are acceptable.
I'll make a statement, Mr. Williams, and I'm not intending to make it to broker a repartee between us. I'm not going to allow members of this township committee to respond to the statements you've made, whether or not they're posed in the form of a question or not. This license has a history. The restriction that's proposed to be, that is included with the license is nothing more than a continuation of a restriction previously attached when perhaps there was another operator serving as licensee. Those restrictions were steeped in a very, very bad and repetitive set of occurrences at the licensed premises, one after another. Without being specific and not intending to be limited by my omissions, they included prostitution and other acts of an unsavory nature. I'm sorry that your client, who came by way of reversion to possess the license, may be visited with those, but that may reflect perhaps poor judgment in allowing the license out of his possession for whatever period of time it took to accrue these violations of the law, which resulted in the conditions being attached. So that's the position of the township.
I would just state for the record, since we would probably have this on appeal, that the conditions that were put on many years ago were never implemented at each renewal. They have lapsed. It clearly states that in order to be effective, they must be put on every year. They weren't. And certainly, what happened 10, 15 years ago, 10 years ago at least, shouldn't fall on this man's shoulders. Why would that be? What's the logic?
Your position is noted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
May I offer resolution number 229-15 with the restrictions that we have imposed?
Well, we lost. Would you recognize counsel for the purchaser?
I don't think.
The The statute, which you were kind enough to share with me, requires input on the matter. If that's Mr. Gorman, I take it?
Yes, it is.
I will be brief.
Mr.
Then I would
Gomes,
ask the chair to allow it.
Okay.
Good evening, Glenn Gorman for the transferee. I will be brief. I'm battling a case of the flu, so I spoke with Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams pretty much presented our case. I just want to reiterate, the applicant has complied with all the obligations of a transferee. If flown by the police department with flying colors, they were a responsible operator. Well, Mr. Doria, Mr. Anthony Doria was a very responsible operator while he was at that location. There was a period of time where they had go-go on a limited part-time basis while Mr. Doria operated. During that period of time, there were absolutely no violations. Special conditions have significant impact on the value of this business. This condition will decimate the value of their investment. We will take this up on appeal if the special condition is attached to the license. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Again, Mr. Mancuso, would you like to?
I will
again,
repeat my motion. I offer resolution number 229-15 with the restrictions so imposed.
Do I hear a second?
Second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Roll call, Ms. Amelia?
Mrs. Johnson?
I was prepared coming into this to vote yes with the restrictions. Is that firm? Are we voting strictly with the restrictions?
It is the resolution as attached.
As attached.
Which includes the restriction.
Then I vote yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Nunn?
Yes.
Mr. Sisler?
Yes.
Mayor Cameron?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, at this point of the meeting, we have come to the point of public commentary. Anybody from the public that would like to come up? Questions, comments? Please state your name and address. Keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the committee, my name's Anthony Daria. I'm not going to reiterate anything you've already heard. You've made your decision, so be it. I'd like to give you a little brief history, though. I've been in the township a long time, 35 years. Owned several properties. Always developed them. Always complied with all the rules, regulations, building permits. Probably I was a little too good of a, not a resident, but property owner in the township. Many a time the township would come to me when they were in trouble and they needed machines for something, I provided it. Occasions you've had water leaks. They came to me when I had my construction company, and I provided you with the valves and whatnot necessary and waited till Southeast Municipal Utility Authority to reimburse me. There's a period of time on John Street, the township never plowed the road because I was the only property owner. They didn't need me. I'm in the armpit of the township. That's what I was told when I got my approvals in 1990. You're in the armpit of the township. We don't care what you do there. So I had to plow my own street. Township never bothered to plow the street. Did I ever complain to anybody about it? Now I open up a business in 1990. Been on that property since 1970. I owned it since 1981. I've watched other operators operate there. It started with Tony Rillo, brother of Ed Rillo, that owned Rillo's Restaurant Lounge. He had Rillo's record. It transferred to Cy Sabona, who operated a bar, restaurant, with entertainment. He sold it eventually. His wife took over after he passed away. He sold it to his wife and son, or they took over wife and son. Eventually it was sold to a Hunan restaurant. I ultimately bought a license from the Jockey Club. I jumped through hoops. I did everything the township asked me to get these conditions to operate this club. I was compelled to rebuild John Street. Not my obligation, but I agreed to do it. I was asked to rebuild the building, the entire building. I demolished it, rebuilt the entire building. I was asked a lot of things to do that I didn't have to do, but I'm not fair in the township. I'm here, I have properties here, I had a good relationship here. I knew people all before you, Pat Alacco and Jack Dries and Alan Hubbard, everybody, Adrian Hubbard and Alan Hubbard. I just don't understand where you feel that your moral compass is so much greater than everybody else in the world that you can impose a restriction like this that's a legal operation, and only if in your mind there's something wrong with it. And I don't know what you can see. I mean, if you've ever watched Dancing with the Stars, you see scantily clad women and men dancing in provocative manners for a reward. All I want to do is hire dancers and entertainers to dance for a reward. Do you attempt to get ABC to stop Dancing with the Stars? Do you next want to go into everybody's home in the township and see what they're reading and what books they read and grab them all and put them on Ginty Field and set them on fire? Where do you think you have the right to impose your moral compass on everybody else in the township? I just don't understand it. As a property owner, I'm paying $35,000 a year for 4 years on this property that I can't use. It's cost me in excess of $700,000 in lost rents, whether it was me or somebody else operating it. In terms of revenue, if I were permitted to use this, which I had gotten all the approvals for, by the way, and it operated as another $1 million in revenues. Do you really want your legacy to be the residents of the township, that when I win this appeal, and I'm going to win the appeal, that you're going to cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees, and maybe more, when I filed my 432 1983 action for civil rights violations, which I believe I have a good case in this township. I don't want to do it. I don't want to make enemies here. I know Mr. Mancuso. I've met a few people here before, but you're treating me so unreasonable, you're leaving me no other alternative. I don't understand your motives. I can't believe what it is that has made you come to this decision. You had an experience with somebody else. That's not me. He had big problems. It wasn't me. That's like blaming the car for the accident. That's like saying this spoon's responsible for me being fat, or this pencil's responsible for my misspelled words. I wasn't there. I didn't do any of those things. I operated that business, and I opened it in 1990, operated it to 2000. Not a single violation in 10 years. Not even someone urinating in the parking lot. We ran a tight ship. We know how to run that business. We hired township police officers and paid the township almost $1,000 on Thursday nights to have 2 police officers there to do nothing more than be, for a goodwill gesture, to show the township that we're not willing to sell to minors. We're not willing to let alcoholics leave the premises without getting a ride. We did these things. I wasn't obligated to do it, but it's a smart move for me to do it. I don't understand why you're taking this poor position right now and putting a burden on me if they're paying, I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. And the losses I'm taking now, I've heard someone comment that they don't care if I spend $500,000 on this. I believe that was said by Mr. Zeisler. Well, I'm probably going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I guarantee you the township's going to spend a lot more. And you're going to have to explain to all the residents in the township how you mismanaged and squandered their tax dollars for no good reason except perhaps for your egos. I've been heard. That's my catechism.
Thank you, Mr. DiOrio. Anybody else from the township, or anybody else in the audience like to be heard?
Good evening, Kathy Wilson, 20 Beechwood Drive.
Good evening.
I would like to comment on this full-page message that appeared in the Daily Herald on 2 separate days, November 25th and December 4th. The title is Restore Integrity to Our Elections in Morris Township. It was submitted to the Daily Herald by a citizens group calling itself Fair Morris Elections. To be clear, I am not a member of this group, and I had no part in creating or publicizing this message. But I do identify with having questions about some of the things that happened in the recent election, like the cartridge malfunction in District 1, the poll worker situation in District 7, and the confusion that occurred in the county clerk's office on election night. The questions I had left me feeling uneasy. I wanted answers. My questions did not rise to the level of an official legal challenge, but doing nothing and letting these questions go unanswered did not seem right to me either. So I decided to spend some time and search for answers on my own. I'm glad I did. I learned a lot. I especially want to thank Dale Kramer, Deputy Superintendent of the Board of Elections. She was extremely helpful and provided every piece of information I asked for. Most of the questions I had have now been answered to my satisfaction. The one exception is the closed-door, Republicans-only meeting that occurred in the county clerk's office on election night. That situation is a central concern in this article. I appreciate the recent opportunity I had to talk in person with Mr. Caffrey and Mr. Nunn about this situation. From my personal point of view, I found that exchange very helpful. In my opinion, that meeting on election night continues to raise questions that have not yet been adequately answered for the public. Ironically, I think the questions that are out there present a tremendous opportunity to build trust and mutual respect, depending on how they're handled in the future. To that end, I'd like to offer a few comments for your consideration. The presenting situation on election night was ripe for conflict. People from both parties were converging on the clerk's office. Everyone had questions. The atmosphere was filled with tension and confusion and conflicting information. The stakes were high. The outcome of the election was in doubt. In that context, it's indisputable that holding a closed-door, Republicans-only meeting in the clerk's inner office created a whole new layer of questions about what was going on. And that, in turn, had the effect of escalating the tensions that were already in place among the people who were there. Rather than getting angry or defensive or saying nothing at all, I think it would be very helpful if this committee acknowledged its understanding of the unintended but regrettable problems this meeting created. In my opinion, such an acknowledgement would go a long way toward building trust and respect across party lines. It would also be a good step forward in answering the concerns that are a central theme in this article. I encourage you to consider doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day, folks. My name is Jim Grabo, 3 Pembroke Place, Clarence Township. I want to thank you for the last meeting aiming me at the freeholders, because that's my next stop toward trying to get signage. Apparently somebody's milling roads up above on the top of Sussex, and a company called Yanowski, I think that's the name, is doing the trucking and the engine braking. You can hear them 2 miles away when they start down the hill. So I'm going to see what happens there. Also, thank you for the quick garbage can little issue. It was, I mean, it was done. They even took the 3 bags out of the can. 95 gallons is way too much. But I asked you last time, is there any comment about reusing electronic equipment versus just destroying of working components? The reason being, I'll ask any one of you gentlemen, do you have computers at home? And how many of you have used burners in those computers for any part of the duration of the time that you've owned the computers?
We generally just receive your public comment, not respond on it.
But that's what I'm trying to say. People throw the stuff out. It's brand new, it gets destroyed. Because what the recycler is looking for is gold and copper wire. That's the extent of it. I'm just looking, I'm a person that has recycled all my life, to the point where if I can't fix it, then I really get rid of it. There's so many components, and I'm only after basically one, burners at the dump, because nobody uses the stuff. it gets thrown away.
You're looking, sorry to interrupt you, you're looking for permission to root through the dump?
No. They stack computers. Right now, it's outside the place where they normally would be stacked. That's how many, it gets picked up maybe once every 2 months. To pick up a computer from the dump, remove the article from the computer, and bring it back. I'm a recycler. I use probably 200, 300 CDs a year, and I do wear these things out. To go and buy them from China versus there they are free. What's so hard about that?
Well, we have a number of concerns. We generally, the township has a policy of not, any activity on municipal property creates the potential for liability based on injuries. If you were to cut yourself or fall, or the stack of computer materials you're talking about fell on you, it's...
No, this is just stuff that's on the ground.
Well, either way. That's
because they let you
tomorrow it's stacked 10 feet high.
What they do is they let you take old lawnmowers from the dump. They let you take weed whackers, stuff like that.
I can't speak to that. If they do that, they're probably doing it without permission. You know, absent a policy change, unfortunately, our answer is no.
The last one, and I'll give you a copy of this. Was anyone listening to that woman that had that charter school speech?
Yes.
Do you know about UN Agenda 21? Well, I'll give you, if you're not familiar with it, I'll at least leave this with you.
Okay.
This is UN, there's 10 copies. It's, the charter school is not conducive to education, among other things. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the audience have comment or query?
Hello, I'm Jim O'Reilly, 50 Independence Way. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. What were the restrictions? Can you describe them generally on that property? Or can it be mentioned? Or is there somehow, would it be prejudicial to the interest of the township to mention what the restrictions?
Speaking about the resolution the two attorneys addressed, we're not going to comment on that.
Oh, okay. I know that you did mention briefly what resolutions, since they're not on the list here, agenda, they must have been added subsequent to the drawing up of the agenda. 244 through, what was the last one, 247 or 48?
47.
Could you briefly describe what they are about? Were they not on the agenda because I suppose they were added after this was printed up, right?
Yeah, they were resolved in our closed session meeting.
Oh, okay, so that could be on the agenda. Okay, briefly, you did describe them in passing, but what are they?
2 tax appeals.
2 tax appeals.
The
appointment of
the chief and deputy chief.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Was wondering how many police officers get sworn in here over a year, or any? I don't know if you. Are all the police officers to get sworn in before the township committee, or are many just done administratively over?
No, they're all done here.
Okay, how many are done here over a year, say?
It's on an as needed, you know, there's attrition when somebody would leave, so there's no set number per year.
So would the average of 2 or 3 a month?
No.
No. Or 3 a year.
What?
2 or 3 a year.
Oh, okay. And what is the, because I was thinking maybe some months there's no activity and other months there's a lot, but what's the size of the police department?
43 sworn officers.
43, so how do you get 2 or 3 new officers a year, right?
At the most, usually.
Okay, thank you. Night.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
I'll answer your question.
Good evening. Morning member, 63 Independence Way.
Just a couple of things here. We have just gone through the reassessment process. And since we already have our 2015-2016 tax bill, when will the new assessment take place then?
It goes into effect January 1st, but you will see the new tax bill will be in August when you receive that, after the state budget is passed in July.
Okay, it goes into effect January 1st, but it will appear on our August tax bill.
Right, when you get one for the third and fourth quarters and the
Third and
first two
fourth
quarters of 2017, you'll see that at that point.
Okay, thank you very much. I caught the article in the Morristown News about the automated trash pickup. We live in a townhouse community and have individual curbside pickup. My question is about disposal of small appliances. I've seen the truck. I've watched while they did the pickup, and the truck is circulating in our neighborhood, even though they're not using the equipment. But I could see that there's something attached to the top of the vehicle that actually picks up the can. I assume. I'd be interested to see how this all works. But we now put items out beside the garbage cans, such as old toasters, irons, microwaves, old seasonal flowers and pots. I can see that around the complex and everything. How will these items be handled now, if you have this automated hand coming down?
If they're items that are large and they don't fit in the can, and they're not recyclable, you can call DPW and they will arrange a special pickup for you.
Oh, if they're large, but the smaller items, you expect us to just dump it in?
Put them in the can.
Just into the garbage can?
Absolutely. Doesn't matter, the weight doesn't matter, because it's a machine that's picking that up, so you don't have to worry about it.
Oh, okay, the weight does not matter. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And have a nice holiday.
You do the same. Anybody else from, sir?
Robert Howard, HOWARD, 16 Woodland Avenue.
Can you repeat the address? I'm sorry, sir.
Pardon me?
16 what avenue?
Woodland.
Woodland. Okay.
Right up the street.
Okay.
I'm a neighbor. I hadn't planned on coming, but I'm glad I did because I really enjoyed the presentation. That was an excellent job.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, residents don't do enough to give those people credit. But I was honored to be here to participate and listen to those presentations. Well done.
Thank you.
But that's not the reason I came. I came because of the reassessment. I had a meeting this morning with the appraisal company. They call up, give you a meeting. I met with them at 10 o'clock. I hadn't planned to come here until I got done with the meeting. And I just thought I needed to at least share some observations I made as a result of going through this process. When I got the letter back in November, and they told me the new assessment, I was taken back, I suspect like most people always are. So I went down to the tax assessor to make sure there wasn't any mistakes. And she was very, very helpful, I must tell you. She's a wonderful employee. Very, very cooperative, very helpful, especially for the uninitiated like me. Excuse me. So I thought it was going to be a relatively simple process until I began to dig in and ask them questions about what the procedures were and what I had to do. And the reason I went was that my assessment came in at 72% higher than the old assessment. And as I dug into the records, into the information in the computer files, they apparently separate the neighborhoods. They put the houses in the neighborhood, and they have a bunch of neighborhoods in Morris Township. And I was in neighborhood 501. And there's 160 homes in 501, which I suspect is right around this geographical area. 160 homes. And I was in the top 7%. 97% of the homes are above me. 93% of the homes are below me. And that's sort of strange. I live in a 65-year-old home. It's well maintained, but never been remodeled, updated, or what have you. And so I was just curious as to how did I manage to get into that top 7%? So that's when I began to do some exploration and examination on, you know, the details. And the appraisal people say that they had made a complete analysis of all recent market data in order to accomplish this task and determine the value of all properties as of October. So my first question this morning to the representative there was, how did you determine that my assessment should be 72% above last year, the last assessment, and why am I up in the top 7% of all the homes, 160 homes in this residential area? And he quickly said, I don't know. He said, that's not my job. My job here is to review the property record card, make sure it's accurate, answer any questions you might have about the property record card. Well, I had looked at that and I didn't have any questions. The data was accurate and I was satisfied with it. And so I had prepared, because as I went through the process, it became obviously apparent to me that I'm in for a really big shock when these new tax bills come out. My assessment going up 72%, and I'm in the top 7% of this community that they measure. So I prepared.
I don't mean to cut you off, and you certainly can say whatever it is you have to say, but this body can do nothing, absolutely nothing, about your assessment.
I understand that. I'm not appealing that. I'm not asking for that. I'm just sharing with you some observations I made in this to help you understand what my opinion is of this process. I'm a taxpayer. I'm just trying to make it from day to day.
Okay, I didn't know where you were going.
And they invited me to go to a hearing, call up, get an appointment, go to a hearing, which I did. And based on, and so I prepared, frankly, I thought they were going to tell me how they got to my assessment. But no, it's my job to prove to them that they are wrong. So I'm guilty until I prove to them that I'm innocent. So I tried to do that. And I prepared a 6-page summary of some ideas and thought, I have to do comparable sales. And so I did 4 comparable sales, and I spent a lot of time taking up the tax assessor's time, going through the records and everything. Finally got all the data I needed, which took a considerable amount of time. And so in the process of discussing this with him, I said, well, which comparable sales did you use? He said, we don't use comparable sales, we use some other process. So I said, okay. So at any rate, my 15 minutes were up. I had gotten past 2 pages of this. He stood up from the table, walked to the front door, and invited in the next person who, my 15 minutes were up. So he invited them in, and I was excused. He said, I'll send this in to the reviewer. The appraisal system is located in Glen Rock. And he gave me a property record card, which I think I have here. Sorry to take your time here. But at any rate, the property record, oh, here it is. This is the property record card he gave me. On the back of it, dear homeowner, all informal hearings hosted are an important part of the reevaluation. The purpose of the informal tax hearing is to give an individual homeowners the opportunity to review the details of their property record with the appraisal system's representative, the person I met with. So I reviewed them. Upon conclusion of each hearing, the hearing officer will report, he will report the results of the meeting to the appraisal systems review board back in Glen Rock. So he just reports. He just takes whatever data he gets and reports it back. And then the review board will ultimately be responsible for any adjustments to the property record card, not the hearing officer, which I was talking to. It is the hearing officer's responsibility to submit the results of each meeting. They are not involved in a final review process. In some cases, homeowners may be contacted by the review board if more information is required to make a final determination of value. So at any rate, he's got my paper, sending in the paper. My point is this. That's it. That's the extent of my appeal process.
No.
He said, no, wait a minute. He told me, I said, what's the next step? He said, you go to the county. I said, I got to go to the county, right, okay. And so you're finished. The local appeal process, for all your intents and purposes, until I get the next letter. When I get the next letter, if it's satisfactory, I will go to the county. If it's not, I have to go to the county. And he says, if that's not satisfactory, you can go to the state. I said, how long does that take? He said, about 2 years. You'll get an answer from the state.
Mr. Howard, if I can interrupt real quick. What we're going to do is we're going to set up a meeting with yourself, Mr. Quinn, our tax assessor, Kathy Villarangel, to kind of go through in a little bit more detail with what you have. I don't want to discount what you have, but I don't want you to go on for an hour.
No, I'm sorry.
No. And I think it's important, but I think we should do that offline. And,
that's great.
And our administrator, Mr. Quinn, is going to set up a meeting with you, and we'd like to hear what you have and go through it.
Fine, I appreciate it. I didn't intend to,
No,
get you involved in it.
No, but I think,
It's just-
to kind of go through it here, maybe a moot point, because we don't have anything in front of us.
It was just a very, very frustrating experience.
Understood.
And I thought it was a relatively simple process, turned out to be less than that.
Understood.
So, thank you very
We'll
much.
be in touch and we will set the meeting.
Thanks for your
Thank you,
time,
sir.
and I appreciate the
You're very
opportunity.
welcome. Anybody else from the public care to be heard at this point in time?
I move we close the public portion, Mr. Mayor.
We're here a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, at this point, we've come to the point of the meeting. Before commentary by Township Committee, consent calendar. Do I hear a motion for the consent calendar as circulated? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Commentary by the Township Committee. Ms. Johnson.
Okay, briefly. There's been a lot talked about and written in terms of what happened on election night. And I just want to make it very simple and clear. Perception and reality are two different things. There might have been a perception of a secret meeting and impropriety. That was not reality. We were all after the same thing, which is to find out the outcome of an election. And we simply did not fancy discussing it with the opposing team in the room. It's that simple. That's it. All there was to it. So I hope that puts your mind at ease somewhat. Okay, second comment is I am not sure why there would be an assumption that a business such as yours would be welcome in a community such as ours. You seem to be making that assumption. I don't think public opinion has come out on that yet. I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Mancuso.
Thank you, sir. Talked about, just to iterate or reiterate something that Louise said, we know this is the first time this has come to the public, so there is no community backlash or any other feeling of what's happening here. It's the first time it's been brought to the public. And just not sure that this is what a family-oriented community wants or needs. Very, very proud to have had Sheriff Rochford and all the rest of the honorees for tonight. And I guess the final thing I'd like to say is a very happy and belated Hanukkah to everybody, and have a happy, holy, and Merry Christmas. And to the rest of us, you, have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Dunn.
I just want to thank the public for their comments, some of which maybe we didn't agree with, some of which we did agree with, but I do appreciate the preparation of the council, who's, I don't think, sitting in here anymore, and everyone else from the public that commented. We make decisions based on debate, internal debate, debate from the public. It's an important part of the process. I'm not going to comment anymore about the election. I've given Mrs. Wilson many discussions about what happened. I think that she would acknowledge that I've talked to her about that evening leading up to it, the campaign in general, congratulated her on her very hard-fought campaign. She congratulated me, Committeeman Sisler. So I really don't think it warrants any further discussion results were certified. And everyone have a happy holiday, happy new year. Today you saw what's good about law enforcement and emergency management. We see too much of the bad, I know I said this at the outset. But it's important that you remember how important their job is. And so like one of the comments that we don't do enough, the public doesn't do enough to thank them. You see one of them, maybe thank them for what they did. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sisson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to just point out two folks that were on the consent calendar tonight and thank them for their many years of service. Maureen Carlin, who is on our planning board and also on our environmental commission, has been a dedicated member of Morris Township for a number of years, and I wanted to just thank her from all of us for serving, as well as Gail Jacobus, who served on our Township Historic Commission for many, many years. Again, fantastic public servants, and I just wanted to thank them. As far as the election night issue goes, there really is nothing more important to me than the credibility of our election process. And it was disappointing that there was a cartridge error. It was disappointing that some of the details of the evening were put into question. But I think that the article, as it was spoken about, and it's not really an article, it's an advertisement that someone, a group of people, paid money to put into the Daily Record, took shots at our county clerk. Ann Grossi has been an honorable public servant for many, many years with an exceptional record. And to have her questioned, her credibility questioned, was a little bit over the top. Anytime that you work in the system, that there is human interface with others, there is potential for error. And I understand the public's disappointment in that. But to do what has been done in the Daily Record, to me, seems a little bit more over the top and a little bit more partisan than what Morris Township deserves. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And if I could, I'd like to piggyback on where Deputy Mayor Sisson left off to. Ann Grossi is a very, very close friend and has been for a number of years. And I find it a little funny that that folks say that was the quote-unquote meeting, which, by the way, was not all Republicans. It was, yes, the Republicans from this committee, but it was a number of Ann Grossi's staff in there. So, you know, basically after a long election day, working a long election day of working, a large number of her staff was in there. A couple of her husband, who's an attorney, was in there. And it was a conversation. I mean, it wasn't a meeting. Now, it's funny that was a problem, but just before that, when we were all at the Femme Shrug, of course, that's not fun. That's fun. But when you go to a friend or to the county clerk's office, and everybody knows that results aren't tabulated in that room. Gosh, if elections were that easy to change, right? Everyone knows the results are not tabulated in that room. The county clerk is just a reporter of what the Board of it's the Board of Elections that certifies elections. It's not the county clerk. They're just reporting the data. But we hear that it was inappropriate, but nobody ever mentions to say what they felt went on, because they know there's really nothing. It's a smoke screen, and it's going to be the last time I'm going to mention it again at this point too. And we're going to move on. The election's been certified by the Board of Elections, not the county clerk. There was a recount done. The recount numbers were exactly the same as what was reported that night by the county clerk. And that's the end of it. Period, end of story. Congrats to everyone tonight early on. It was As Mr. Howard said earlier, it was a great night of recognition and appointments to our emergency medical group, both fire, police, and Minutemen, who we are all very proud of and who they do a yeoman's job. The Minutemen are going to respond to about 2,000 calls this year? About 2,000 calls over the course of the year between Morris Township, Morris Plains, and Morris Township, Morris Plains, and any mutual aid that they may have done. The Morris Township Fire Department is responding to close to between 1,500 and 2,000 calls for the year. A lot of those folks are volunteers. All of the Minutemen are volunteers. Police, how many responses in a given year on average? 45,000 calls with 45 officers. It's about 1,000 per officer, if you think about it. You want to break that down. They do yeoman's work. They're there. Most folks never even need them, but when you do, you're happy they're there to back you up. A couple of other minor points. Streeter Pool is about a month ahead of schedule, thanks to the great weather. Actually, we're thinking of maybe opening Ginty Pool next week. Because I think it's supposed to be 65 degrees again. Just kidding.